Doohan Kim hated quiet days in space. They'd made him nervous. After 5 years of working as a deep space construction engineer, he had learned that silence often came before trouble. He sat in his construction mech suit, welding the last support beam of the new communications relay. The massive structure floated in the darkness of space, its silver surface reflecting the distant starlight. His radio crackled only with the usual status updates from the construction eye. Section G7 complete. Moving to final inspection, Doohan reported to the base station. He wiped the sweat from his forehead inside his helmet and checked his suit's oxygen levels. 6 hours remaining, more than enough to finish his shift. That's when he saw it, a flash of purple light in the distance. "Base, are we expecting any ships in Sector 4? He asked, already moving his mech suit toward the strange light. "Negative, Doohan. Sector 4 should be clear for the next 3 days. The purple light flashed again, and this time Doohan caught sight of something that made his heart skip a beat. A ship, but not like any human vessel he had ever seen. Its hull was smooth like polished glass, with curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in space. But parts of it were dark, and he could see debris floating nearby. "Base, I'm picking up an unknown vessel. It appears to be damaged." Doohan moved closer, his mech suit's lights illuminating more of the strange ship. I think it's alien. Do not approach." The base controller's voice was sharp. "Protocol requires immediate withdrawal and notification of the Space Defense Force." But Doohan had already seen something that made protocol seem suddenly unimportant. Through one of the ship's transparent sections, he saw movement. Someone was alive in there, and they were in trouble. His suit's sensors showed that part of the ship was losing pressure fast. "There's a life sign," he reported, already calculating, "and they have maybe 15 minutes before their section decompresses completely." "Doohan, this is a direct order. Do not." He switched off the radio. The Space Defense Force would take at least 40 minutes to arrive. By then, whoever was in there would be dead. Doohan looked at his construction supplies. He had industrial foam sealant, metal panels, emergency patch kits, and his welding tools. Not exactly rescue equipment, but time to get creative, he muttered to himself. He moved quickly, spraying the industrial foam around a section of the alien ship's hull where the life signs were strongest. The foam hardened in seconds, creating a rough but solid frame. Next, he welded metal panels to the foam frame, creating a makeshift airlock corridor. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't regulation, but it would work. Through the transparent hull, he saw the ship's occupant clearly for the first time. The alien looked almost human, except for the silvery skin and large, angular eyes that reflected light like mirrors. They were wearing something that looked like a research uniform, now torn and stained. The alien watched him work with those mirror-like eyes, pressing a hand against the transparent hull. Doohan could see the fear in their expression. It was surprisingly human-like. He pointed to himself, then to his makeshift airlock, trying to communicate his plan. The pressure in the ship's section dropped another 10%. No time for better explanations. Doohan finished the final weld and checked the seal. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold. He moved his mech suit to the airlock's outer door and opened his emergency hatch. "Please understand what I'm trying to do," he whispered, though no one could hear him in space. He pressed the external release for his airlock and extended his hand toward the transparent hull where the alien waited. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien just stared at him, those mirror eyes reflecting his own suited figure back at him. Then they moved. The alien pressed something on their side of the hull, and a section of it became fluid-like, creating an opening that matched up with Doohan's makeshift airlock. The alien hesitated for just a second, looking at Doohan's extended hand. Then the ship shuddered, and they made their decision. They pushed off from their side and floated through the rough metal corridor Doohan had built. As soon as they were through, Doohan sealed the airlock. The alien floated in the space between their two vessels, alive and safe, though clearly shocked by the entire experience. His radio crackled back to life. He had dozens of angry messages from base control, and he could already see the Space Defense Force ships approaching in the distance. But when the alien raised their hand in what seemed like a gesture of thanks, Doohan smiled. Sometimes breaking protocol was worth it. He just hoped someone at base could translate alien languages. Haynul couldn't stop staring at the strange metal tunnel that had saved her life. It was ugly, rough, and completely impossible according to everything she knew about engineering. Yet here she was, alive because of it. The human who had built it still floated nearby in his large mechanical suit. He made gestures with his hands, probably trying to ask if she was okay. Haynul nodded, remembering from her research that humans use this motion to mean yes. She pulled out her universal translator from her torn research uniform. It was damaged but still working. After a few adjustments, she spoke. "I am Haynul, Lyrian Science Division researcher. You saved my life using methods that should not work." The translator turned her words into basic human English. The human's face lit up behind his helmet. "I'm Doohan Kim. And sometimes the best solutions aren't the pretty ones." His words came through her translator with a slight delay. "Are you hurt?" "Minor injuries only." Haynul looked back at her ship. "But my vessel's quantum drive is critically damaged. I was studying human construction techniques from a distance when my ship's systems failed." Doohan looked at her ship, then at his construction supplies. "I might be able to help with repairs. But first, we should probably deal with them." He pointed to the approaching Space Defense Force ships. Haynul felt her skin change color slightly, a Lyrian sign of worry. The human noticed but didn't comment. 3 military ships surrounded them. A stern voice came through both their communication systems. "This is Captain Lee of the Space Defense Force. Both of you will proceed to Arcturus Station for questioning." During the short trip to the station, Haynul watched Doohan carefully detach his makeshift airlock from her ship. The whole thing should have fallen apart, but somehow his bizarre combination of construction foam and metal panels had held together perfectly. At the station, the officials separated them for questioning. Haynul sat in a plane room while human officers asked her many questions. She answered them all, but her mind kept going back to Doohan's rescue method. "You're saying he built an emergency airlock in less than 15 minutes?" one officer asked, clearly doubtful. "Yes, using materials not designed for that purpose." Haynul pulled out her research tablet, which had recorded the whole event. "See here, he used simple construction foam as a structural base. No Lyrian would ever consider this. Our engineering principles require specific materials for specific purposes." The officers watched the recording several times. Their expressions changed from doubt to surprise. "And it worked?" another officer asked. "Obviously, as I am here," Haynul said. "But it should not have worked. The pressure differences alone should have crushed such a basic structure. Yet somehow his imperfect solution was perfect for the situation." In the next room, she could hear Doohan defending his actions. "What was I supposed to do? Let them die because I didn't have the right equipment? We use what we have. That's what humans do." After 4 hours of questions, the officers finally let them meet again in a common area. Doohan had changed out of his spacesuit into a simple station uniform. "Are you in trouble?" Haynul asked him. Doohan shrugged. "Some. Broke about 12 protocols. But they're more interested in how I built that airlock. Speaking of which," he pulled out a tablet showing the scans of her ship. "I think I know how we can fix your quantum drive. It won't be pretty, but it will work." Haynul finished his sentence, starting to understand this human way of thinking. "Exactly." Doohan grinned. "We'll need to redirect power through the secondary systems, use some construction-grade power cells, and maybe add some emergency coolant lines. Not exactly standard repairs, but..." Haynul felt her skin shift to a lighter shade, a sign of excitement that made Doohan raise his eyebrows curiously. "Show me," she said. "Show me how humans solve problems." As Duhan began explaining his repair plan, Newell started recording again. This was no longer just a study of human construction techniques. This was something much more interesting. A study of how humans could make the impossible possible, simply by refusing to accept that it was impossible in the first place. The repair bay of Arcturus Station buzzed with activity as Duhan laid out his tools on a workbench. Newell watched him with growing confusion as he picked up various items that were clearly not meant for fixing quantum drives. "That is a food heating unit," she said, pointing to one of the devices. "Yes, but it has a great power converter inside." Duhan carefully opened the unit, and with some changes, it can help control the energy flow to your ship's damaged systems. Newell's skin turned a pale gray, a sign of distress. "But it is not made for that purpose. It could fail. Or it could work better than the original." Duhan smiled as he removed the converter. "Sometimes the best tools are the ones we create ourselves." Just then, Duhan's friend Jeho Park walked into the repair bay. He carried a box of spare parts from the station's storage. "You won't believe what I found," Jeho said excitedly. "Old communication arrays that we can use for power routing. They're not perfect, but they'll work," Duhan finished. He turned to Newell. "See, we adapt." Newell took out her research tablet and began recording. "In Lyrian engineering, we have specific tools for specific tasks. Each tool is perfect for its purpose. Your method seems chaotic. Chaos isn't always bad," Jeho said as he helped Duhan sort through the parts. "Sometimes the perfect tool isn't available. So we make do." They worked for several hours. Newell watched as Duhan and Jeho turned ordinary station equipment into something new. They argued, tested ideas, and solved problems in ways that made her head spin. "That will never," Newell started to say as Duhan connected the modified food heater converter to her ship's power system. The system hummed to life. Energy readings stabilized. It worked. "How?" Newell asked, her skin shifting to a bright silver color of surprise. "Our engineers spend years designing specific solutions. You just created one in hours." "That's because your people look for perfect answers," Duhan explained as he checked the power levels. "We look for answers that work. Sometimes they're the same thing. Sometimes they're not." A small alarm sounded from the power system. Duhan quickly adjusted some connections, and the alarm stopped. "See," Newell pointed at the system. "Unstable. A proper repair would not need adjustments." "Maybe," Jeho said, "but a proper repair would take weeks and special parts from your homeworld. This repair lets you fly home now." Newell looked at her ship. The repairs were ugly. Wires and modified parts showed everywhere, but all system readings were green. It would fly. "I do not understand," she admitted. "Everything I know about engineering says this should fail. Yet it works. How do humans think of such solutions?" Duhan wiped his hands on a cloth and thought for a moment. "We don't start with 'this is impossible.' We start with 'how can we make this possible?' Big difference." "And you're not afraid of failure?" Newell asked. "Of course we are," Jeho laughed. "But we're more afraid of not trying." Newell recorded their words carefully. Then she noticed something odd about the repair bay. Other station workers had gathered to watch them work. Some took notes. Others whispered among themselves. "Why are they watching?" she asked Duhan quietly. "Because we're learning too," he said. "Your ship's technology is new to us. We're seeing how it works, understanding its parts. Next time we need to fix something like this, we'll be better at it." Newell felt her skin shift through several colors as she processed this idea. Humans didn't just solve problems. They learned from each solution to solve future problems better. "Your creativity," she said slowly, "it is not just about making things work. It is about learning and growing. And never stopping," Duhan finished. That's what makes us human. Hamnul looked at her repaired ship again. Perhaps the Lyrian way of perfect solutions wasn't the only way. Perhaps there was something to learn from human creativity after all. 3 days had passed since the repairs on Hamnul's ship began. The Space Defense Force had given her permission to stay at Arcturus Station while they tested the safety of Duhan's repairs. During this time, Hamnul found herself spending more and more time with Duhan in the station's common areas. "So your people never play with their food?" Duhan asked as they sat in the station's dining hall. He was showing her how humans made shapes with mashed potatoes. "Food is for eating," Hamnul said, watching him create a small mountain on his plate. "Why make it into other things?" "Because it's fun," Duhan smiled. "Not everything needs a serious purpose." Hamnul's skin rippled with light blue streaks, a sign of amusement. She was starting to understand that humans found joy in the strangest places. "Your people are very different from mine," she said, taking notes on her tablet. "We plan everything. Every minute has a purpose. But humans, you seem to find new purposes for everything." Duhan nodded. "Life's more interesting that way. Like yesterday when you showed me how your ship's navigation system works. I got 10 new ideas for improving our construction guides." "But that system was not made for construction," Hamnul said quickly. "Exactly." Duhan's eyes lit up. "That's what makes it interesting. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places." They were interrupted by Jiho, who rushed into the dining hall with excitement on his face. "The test results are in," he announced. Hamnul's ship passed all safety checks. The repairs work perfectly. Hamnul felt her skin turn bright silver with surprise again. "Even with the food heater converter?" "Especially with that," Jiho laughed. "The engineers want to study how it works. They think it might be better than the original part." Duhan turned to Hamnul. "See, sometimes the weird solution is the best solution." Hamnul looked down at her own plate of food. After a moment's hesitation, she picked up her fork and tried to make a shape with her mashed potatoes. It wasn't very good, but Duhan smiled warmly at her attempt. "You're learning," he said softly. "Yes," Hamnul agreed, "but not just about human creativity. I'm learning that my people might be wrong about humans. We thought your unpredictable nature made you dangerous, but now I see it makes you special." Duhan was quiet for a moment. "What will you tell your people about us?" "The truth," Hamnul said, "that humans don't just break rules. You find new ways to make things better. You don't just solve problems. You transform them into opportunities." She showed him her research notes. Pages and pages of observations about human behavior, creativity, and problem-solving. But mixed in with the scientific notes were personal observations about kindness, about laughter, about finding joy in simple things. "You've written a lot," Duhan noticed. "There is much to learn," Hamnul replied. Her skin turned a soft pink, a color she had never shown before. "And I find that I want to learn more." Just then, the station's lights flickered. A moment later, the emergency alarm sounded. "Warning," the station's AI announced. "Critical failure detected in primary power core. Backup systems not responding." Duhan and Jiho exchanged quick looks. Hamnul saw their expressions change from concern to determination. "Time to get creative again?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Always," Duhan said, standing up. "Want to help? We could use some Lyrian precision to balance out our human chaos." Hamnul's skin shifted to a bright, determined gold. "Yes," she said, surprising herself with how quickly she answered. "I want to help. I want to see how humans solve problems when things go wrong." As they rushed to the power core, Hamnul realized something important. She wasn't just studying humans anymore. She was learning to think like them. And somehow, that didn't seem scary at all. The power core room was chaos when Duhan, Hamnul, and Jiho arrived. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Station engineers ran back and forth. checking systems, and shouting numbers. Main power down to 15%. Someone yelled. Backup systems won't start, called another. Hanul looked at the station's power core. It was different from Lyrian technology, but she could see the problem. Energy was flowing in strange patterns, creating dangerous buildups. We have standard procedures for power failures, the chief engineer said, reading from his tablet. But nothing's working. Duhan stepped forward. What if we connect Hanul's ship to the station's power grid? Use its quantum systems to help stabilize things. The chief engineer shook his head. That's against every safety protocol we have. Alien technology could make things worse. Or it could save the station, Jiho argued. We're running out of options. Hanul's skin turned deep purple, a sign of deep thought. The connection is possible, she said, but it would not be safe. The energy patterns are too different. Then we'll make them work together, Duhan said. He turned to Hanul. Remember the food heater converter? Sometimes different is good. Hanul looked at her tablet, then at the failing power core. We would need to create an entirely new type of power converter, something that has never been made before. Perfect, Duhan smiled. That's exactly what humans are good at. They worked fast. Duhan and Jiho gathered parts from around the station. Power cables, computer parts, and tools. Hanul used her knowledge of Lyrian technology to design a basic plan. The energy patterns must be balanced, she explained, drawing on her tablet. Like mixing two different colors of paint. We can use the station's communication systems to help control the flow, Jiho suggested. They're already designed to handle different types of signals. Duhan looked at the engine room's food replicator. And that has power regulators we can use. Hanul's skin flickered between purple and silver as she watched them work. The humans took her careful plans and added their own ideas. They tried things that shouldn't work, failed, then tried again in new ways. Power down to 10%. Someone warned. The station's lights grew dimmer. Almost there, Duhan said as he connected the last cables. The device they had built looked strange. Part Lyrian technology, part human technology, and part things that were never meant to be technology at all. This breaks every engineering rule I know, Hanul said quietly. But will it work? Jiho asked. Hanul checked her calculations one last time. Maybe, if we're lucky. Luck is just another word for creativity under pressure, Duhan said. He looked at the chief engineer. Ready? The chief engineer looked at their strange device, then at the failing power core. Do it. Duhan pressed the activation switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the device hummed to life. Energy began flowing between Hanul's ship and the station's power core. Warning lights flashed. The station shook. Hanul's skin turned gray with worry. The energy patterns are fighting each other, she said, watching her readings. Like two rivers meeting. Then let's help them work together, Duhan said. He adjusted controls quickly, following Hanul's guidance. Jiho monitored the power levels, calling out numbers. Slowly, the station's lights brightened. The warning alarm stopped. Power levels rising, the chief engineer announced. 20%, 40%, 60%, stabilizing at 75%. The room burst into cheers. Hanul's skin turned bright gold with relief and happiness. We did it, she said, amazed. We actually did it. No, Duhan corrected her gently. You did it. You took a chance on human creativity. That's not easy for someone who likes perfect solutions. Hanul looked at their device. Ugly but working, impossible but real. Perhaps, she said, perfect solutions are not always the best solutions. The chief engineer was already taking pictures and notes. This technology, it's completely new. A human-Lyrian hybrid we never thought possible. That's what happens, Jiho said with a grin, when you mix human creativity with Lyrian precision. Haenul's skin turned that soft pink color again as she looked at Duhan. She was starting to understand what that color meant, and it both excited and scared her. 2 weeks had passed since Yanji's visit. The station buzzed with new energy as human and Lyrian engineers worked together, sharing ideas and learning from each other. But for Haenul and Duhan, something else was growing alongside the technical cooperation. They sat in the station's garden area, a small space with plants from Earth. Haenul watched with fascination as Duhan showed her how to make a paper airplane from his notebook. "The paper is not meant to fly," she said, but her skin sparkled with interest. "Most things aren't meant to fly," Duhan replied as he folded the paper carefully, "until someone decides they should." He threw the paper airplane. It glided smoothly across the garden, landing among some flowers. Haenul's skin turned bright with delight. "Show me how," she said. Duhan taught her the folds, guiding her hands gently when she struggled with the exact angles. Her skin turned pink at his touch, and this time she didn't try to hide it. "Haenul," Duhan said softly, "I've learned to read your colors. I know what pink means." She looked down at her hands, still holding the half-folded paper airplane. "On my world, relationships between species are not done. They're pretty rare here too," Duhan admitted. "But maybe that's just because nobody tried hard enough to understand each other." Jaiho found them there, surrounded by paper airplanes. He smiled knowingly but spoke about work. "The station chief wants to talk to both of you," he said. "It's about the new joint engineering program." In the chief's office, they found not just the station chief, but also several engineers, both human and Lyrian. Screens showed more officials joining by video. "We've been watching your work," the station chief said. "The way you two solve problems together, it's unique. Different approaches that make each other better." Haenul's skin shifted nervously. "We just work well together." "Exactly," one of the Lyrian engineers said. "That's why we want you to lead the new program. Show others how humans and Lyrians can work together." Duhan looked surprised. "Us? But we're not." "Not what?" the station chief asked. "Not qualified. You saved a life with construction foam, fixed a quantum drive with spare parts, saved a station by combining technologies no one thought could work together. But those were just creative solutions that worked." Haenul finished. Her skin had turned a bright, confident gold. "That's what we can teach others, how to see beyond what things are meant to be." After the meeting, they walked through the station's corridors together. Their new job would mean working closely, teaching others what they had learned from each other. "Are you okay with this?" Duhan asked, "Working together even more." Haenul stopped walking and turned to face him. Her skin shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, rich pink. "Duhan," she said carefully, "when you saved my life, you didn't think about rules or species. You just helped. When we fixed the power core, we didn't worry about mixing technologies. We just made it work." "That's what humans do," Duhan said with a small smile. "No," Haenul touched his hand gently. "That's what we do. Together, we see possibilities where others see problems." Duhan looked at their hands, hers silvery and his tan, but somehow fitting together perfectly. "My people feared humans because you're unpredictable," Haenul continued. "Because you change things, break patterns, find new ways. But now I understand. That's exactly what makes you wonderful. And your people," Duhan said, "have shown us how to make our crazy ideas work better. We need each other." Haenul's skin glowed with that special pink that she now knew meant love. "Yes," she said simply, "we do." Around them, the station hummed with power from their hybrid generator. In the labs, humans and Lyrians worked together on new inventions. And in a garden nearby, paper airplanes lay among earth flowers, simple toys that proved anything could become something new and wonderful if you just looked at it the right way. 1 month after the start of the joint engineering program, Arcturus Station hosted its first official human-Lyrian technology summit. The main meeting hall was filled with important people from both species. Haynew's research paper, Creative Solutions, Understanding Human Problem Solving, was the talk of the event. Your paper has caused quite a stir, Yunji told Haynew before the presentations began. The Lyrian Science Council has read it 20 times. Haynew's skin flickered with nervous silver. And their response? They want more, Yunji said, her own skin showing pleased gold tones. Your examples of human creativity have made them rethink many things. Duhan stood nearby, wearing a formal uniform that Jai-ho had helped him choose. Hard to believe this all started with some construction foam and spare parts. The station chief stepped up to speak first. On the big screens behind him, images showed the progress of the joint program. The hybrid power generator, new tools that combined human and Lyrian design, engineering students from both species working together. 1 month ago, the chief said, "We thought human and Lyrian technology couldn't mix. Now look at us." He pointed to a group of young engineers in the crowd. They had created a new type of repair robot that used human-style creative problem-solving with Lyrian precise controls. But the real breakthrough, the chief continued, wasn't in technology. It was in understanding. And it started with two people who didn't see differences as problems. Haynewel and Duhan looked at each other. Her skin turned pink again, making several Lyrian officials whisper among themselves. Next, Haynewel presented her research. She showed videos of human engineers solving problems in unexpected ways. She explained how human creativity and Lyrian precision could work together to find better solutions. "We feared human unpredictability," she said, her voice clear and strong. "But look what happens when we embrace it instead." She showed the emergency airlock Duhan had built to save her. Many Lyrian engineers gasped at the strange construction, but then nodded with understanding when she explained how it worked. "Humans teach us that rules are not chains," Haynewel said. "They are guidelines that can bend when needed. And sometimes, bending them leads to wonderful new discoveries." After her talk, a senior member of the Lyrian Science Council stood up. "We have made a decision," he announced. "We will open 3 new joint research stations, places where humans and Lyrians can work together, learn together, and grow together." The room burst into excited talk. Duhan squeezed Haynewel's hand under the table as her skin glowed with joy. "There's more," the council member continued. "We are also changing our laws about interspecies relationships." Haynewel's skin turned bright pink again, making Duhan smile. The council member looked directly at them. "Love, it seems, is as creative as human engineering. It finds ways to work even when we think it shouldn't." Later, at the celebration party, Ji-ho found them in the garden. Paper airplanes still lay among the flowers, but now there were new ones too. Made by young Lyrian engineers learning to play with paper. "You've started something big," Ji-ho told them. "The whole galaxy is talking about it. Humans and Lyrians working together, learning from each other, living together." Haynewel asked softly, her skin glowing that special shade of pink that only Duhan could bring out. "That too," Ji-ho grinned. "You two showed everyone that different doesn't mean wrong. It just means new possibilities." Duhan looked at the paper airplanes scattered around them. "You know what's funny? None of this was planned. We just did what felt right." "That," Haynewel said, "is the most human thing you could have said." Her skin sparkled with happiness. "And now I understand why that's a wonderful thing." Above them, through the garden's clear roof, they could see stars. Somewhere out there, new joint research stations were being planned. New relationships were beginning. New ideas were taking flight. Just like a paper airplane that shouldn't fly but did anyway. 6 months had passed since the first Human-Lyrian Technology Summit. Arcturus Station had grown bigger, with new sections built specifically for joint research projects. The garden where Duhan had first taught Haynewel to make paper airplanes was now a large park, full of both Earth and Lyrian plants growing together. Duhan stood in this garden, adjusting his formal uniform. Today was special. The opening ceremony for the first human Lyrian Engineering Academy. He and Haynul would be its first teachers. Nervous? Jaiho asked, helping him straighten his collar. A little, Duhan admitted. Teaching is different from doing. That's exactly why it'll be good at it, a familiar voice said. Haynul walked up to them, her skin glowing with confident gold colors. She wore a modified version of her Lyrian uniform, designed to show her skin colors more clearly, something that would help human students understand Lyrian emotions better. Ready to show the galaxy what humans and Lyrians can do together? She asked Duhan. Before he could answer, they heard excited voices. Their first class of students was arriving. 20 humans and 20 Lyrians, all chosen for their ability to think in new ways. Welcome, Haynul said to the group. Today you begin a journey that no one thought possible a year ago. Duhan stepped forward. You're here because you believe that different ways of thinking make us stronger, not weaker. He picked up 2 things from a nearby table, a piece of paper and a Lyrian technical tablet. This paper, he said, folding it into an airplane, was never meant to fly. This tablet was never meant to control human machinery. But look, he threw the paper airplane, which glided perfectly through the air. At the same time, Haynul used the tablet to activate their latest invention, a small drone that combined human creativity with Lyrian precision. It caught the paper airplane in mid-flight. The students clapped and cheered. Their eyes showed excitement and curiosity. That's your first lesson, Haynul said, her skin sparkling. Anything is possible when we stop saying, that's not how it's done, and start asking, how can we do it? One of the Lyrian students raised a hand. But our engineering principles, our excellent guidelines, Duhan finished. But guidelines can bend. That's how we grow. A human student spoke next. Is it true you built an emergency airlock out of construction foam? Yes, Haynul answered before Duhan could. That was the day I learned that human creativity isn't chaos, it's courage. The courage to try new things. The students gathered around as Duhan and Haynul showed them the hybrid power generator that had saved the station. It still worked perfectly, humming with the combined energy of 2 different technologies working as one. This is your future, Duhan told them. Not just mixing technologies, but mixing ideas, making something new and wonderful together. Later that day, after the first classes were done, Duhan and Haynul stood in their favorite spot in the garden. Above them, stars twinkled through the clear roof. Below, paper airplanes rested among blooming flowers from 2 worlds. Remember when you first showed me how to make these? Haynul asked, picking up one of the paper airplanes. Her skin turned that special shade of pink that was just for Duhan. You said paper wasn't meant to fly. He smiled. I was wrong about many things, she said softly. My people feared human creativity because we didn't understand it. We saw it as a threat to order. And now we see it as a gift. Haynul's skin glowed brighter. A way to make the impossible possible. A way to build bridges between different worlds. Duhan took her hand, still amazed at how natural it felt. Human and Lyrian, different but perfect together. What do you think our students will create? He asked. Wonderful things, Haynul said confidently. Things we can't even imagine yet, because that's what happens when human creativity meets Lyrian precision. When fear turns to love, when differences become strengths. Above them, the stars continued to shine, full of endless possibilities, and somewhere in the garden, a new group of students was already learning to make paper airplanes fly in ways they were never meant to. But then again, that was the point. Some of the best things in life were never meant to be, until someone was creative enough to make them happen anyway. 6 months had passed since the first Human Lyrian Technology Summit. Arcturus Station had grown bigger, with new sections built specifically for joint research projects. The garden where Du-Han had first taught Hae-Nul to make paper airplanes was now a large park, full of both earth and Lyrian plants growing together. Du-Han stood in this garden, adjusting his formal uniform. Today was special, the opening ceremony for the first human Lyrian Engineering Academy. He and Hae-Nul would be its first teachers. Nervous? Jiho asked, helping him straighten his collar. A little, Du-Han admitted. Teaching is different from doing. That's exactly why you'll be good at it, a familiar voice said. Hae-Nul walked up to them, her skin glowing with confident gold colors. She wore a modified version of her Lyrian uniform, designed to show her skin colors more clearly, something that would help human students understand Lyrian emotions better. Ready to show the galaxy what humans and Lyrians can do together? She asked Du-Han. Before he could answer, they heard excited voices. Their first class of students was arriving. 20 humans and 20 Lyrians, all chosen for their ability to think in new ways. Welcome, Hae-Nul said to the group. Today you begin a journey that no one thought possible a year ago. Du-Han stepped forward. You're here because you believe that different ways of thinking make us stronger, not weaker. He picked up two things from a nearby table, a piece of paper and a Lyrian technical tablet. This paper, he said, folding it into an airplane, was never meant to fly. This tablet was never meant to control human machinery. But look, he threw the paper airplane, which glided perfectly through the air. At the same time, Hae-Nul used the tablet to activate their latest invention, a small drone that combined human creativity with Lyrian precision. It caught the paper airplane in mid-flight. The students clapped and cheered. Their eyes showed excitement and curiosity. That's your first lesson, Hae-Nul said, her skin sparkling. Anything is possible when we stop saying, that's not how it's done, and start asking, how can we do it? One of the Lyrian students raised a hand. But our engineering principles, our excellent guidelines, Du-Han finished. But guidelines can bend. That's how we grow. A human student spoke next. Is it true you built an emergency airlock out of construction foam? Yes, Hae-Nul answered before Du-Han could. That was the day I learned that human creativity isn't chaos, it's courage. The courage to try new things. The students gathered around as Du-Han and Hae-Nul showed them the hybrid power generator that had saved the station. It still worked perfectly, humming with the combined energy of two different technologies working as one. This is your future, Du-Han told them. Not just mixing technologies, but mixing ideas, making something new and wonderful together. Later that day, after the first classes were done, Du-Han and Hae-Nul stood in their favorite spot in the garden. Above them, stars twinkled through the clear roof. Below, paper airplanes rested among blooming flowers from two worlds. Remember when you first showed me how to make these? Hae-Nul asked, picking up one of the paper airplanes. Her skin turned that special shade of pink that was just for Du-Han. You said paper wasn't meant to fly. He smiled. I was wrong about many things, she said softly. My people feared human creativity because we didn't understand it. We saw it as a threat to order. And now we see it as a gift. Hae-Nul's skin glowed brighter. A way to make the impossible possible. A way to build bridges between different worlds. Du-Han took her hand, still amazed at how natural it felt. Human and Lyrian, different, but perfect together. What do you think our students will create? He asked. Wonderful things, Hae-Nul said confidently. Things we can't even imagine yet, because that's what happens when human creativity meets Lyrian precision, when fear turns to love, when differences become strengths. Above them, the stars continue to shine, full of endless possibilities, and somewhere in the garden, a new group of students was already learning to make paper airplanes fly in ways they were never meant to. But then again, that was the point. Some of the best things in life were never meant to be, until someone was creative enough to make them happen anyway.